It was supposed to be a peaceful morning. A young woman boarded the train, chasing her dream of a new beginning. But what started as a journey of happiness would soon turn into a journey of terror she would never forget. When laughter turned into screams, and the gentle rhythm of the train became a cry for survival. One woman had to find the courage to stand against fear itself. Can an ordinary person find light in the darkest moment of their life? Stay with this story till the end, to discover what true happiness really means. The morning breeze drifted gently through the open train window. The sound of iron wheels striking the tracks repeated rhythmically, like an endless song. Outside, green rice fields stretched endlessly, covered with a thin layer of mist. The early sunlight began to brighten, little by little. Mintra sat gazing at the scenery, her heart full of hope. She was on her way to a new city, ready to begin a new life. Everything looked bright and beautiful in her eyes. Yet, inside her, there was a strange feeling she could not explain. Laughter echoed softly from the passengers behind her. A little boy handed her a snack with a wide smile. Mintra smiled back and accepted it politely. That small act of kindness warmed her heart. But soon, a strange smell drifted in with the wind. The scent of burning smoke, something that should not exist on the train. She frowned and looked around, yet no one else seemed alarmed. Everyone continued talking and laughing as usual. Gray smoke began to drift from the next compartment ahead. The sound of metal scraping against metal grew louder. The train trembled, just like Mintra's heart that began to pound rapidly. The little boy who had been laughing moments ago had fallen silent. The silence that followed felt heavier than the smoke. Mintra turned toward the source, her eyes widening as she saw the faint glow of orange flickering through the narrow crack between the train doors ahead. Her throat tightened. The smell of burning fabric mixed with metal grew thicker, stronger. She could now hear muffled shouts, panicked voices that shattered the peaceful rhythm of the morning. She rose from her seat, clutching the metal armrest for balance as the train jerked slightly. Her legs felt weak, yet her instincts urged her forward. Each step toward the front of the carriage seemed to pull her into a different world, a world no longer filled with laughter, but fear. The smoke grew denser, swirling like a dark fog that stole her breath away. She passed by the little boy and his mother. The boy looked up at her with wide eyes, holding tightly to his mother's arm. Mintra knelt down for a brief second, placing a trembling hand on his shoulder. "Stay calm," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Everything will be fine." But even she could hear the uncertainty in her own words. The next carriage door was half open. Flames danced beyond it, licking at the seats and curtains. The heat stung her skin, and she could feel beads of sweat trickle down her neck. She tried to push the door open, but it was jammed. Behind her, passengers began to stand, shouting, their voices a mixture of fear and confusion. A man in a gray jacket rushed forward, coughing violently. "Fire!" he shouted. The engines caught fire. The announcement spread like a wave through the train, igniting panic. People began grabbing their bags, pushing toward the exits. Mintra could hear children crying, the sound slicing through the chaos. She turned back, trying to guide people away from the front. "The other way," she cried. "Go to the back. Hurry." Her voice cracked, but some listened, moving with desperate urgency. Others froze in fear, unable to move, their eyes fixed on the growing wall of smoke. The train suddenly lurched. Mintra stumbled, hitting her shoulder against the side panel. Her ears rang as she tried to regain balance, realizing that the train was slowing down. Perhaps the conductor had noticed the fire. The wheels screeched against the tracks, sparks flying outside the window. Her vision blurred from the smoke. She pulled her scarf over her mouth and nose, coughing as she forced herself toward the nearest window. Her hands trembled as she tried to slide it open, it would not budge. She hit it with her elbow, again and again, until a crack appeared on the glass. The man in the gray jacket came to help her. Together, they pushed until the window gave way. Fresh air burst inside, sharp and cold against her burning lungs. One by one, people began following their lead, trying to escape through the windows. Outside, the fields still looked so peaceful, unaware of the chaos unfolding above the rails. The sound of crying grew louder behind her. She turned to see the little boy again. His mother was struggling to stand, her dress caught on a broken seat. Mintra ran back without thinking. She knelt beside them, tearing the fabric loose. The mother coughed violently, her face pale and wet with tears. "Take him first," she gasped. Mintra grabbed the boy by the arms, pulling him toward the open window. The man in the gray jacket reached out from outside, helping lift the boy through. He was safe now, at least for the moment. But before Mintra could climb out herself, there was a sudden explosion from the front of the train. The blast threw her backward, her head hitting the seat rail. For a moment, everything went silent. She could not hear the screams anymore, only a dull ringing inside her head. Her vision flickered, bright light, then darkness, then light again. The air was thick, almost solid with smoke. She could taste the bitterness of burned metal and ash on her tongue. Her heart pounded unevenly, her breath shallow. Through the haze, she could barely make out shapes, shadows moving, crawling, crying for help. Her body ached all over, but she forced herself to move. She dragged herself toward the broken window, her fingers gripping the edge. Her nails tore against the glass, leaving tiny streaks of blood. Then, a hand reached in from outside. It was the man in the gray jacket again, covered in soot, his face streaked with sweat. "Give me your hand," he shouted. She did. He pulled her with all his strength until she tumbled out of the train and fell onto the cold grass below. The world outside was spinning. The train stood there like a wounded beast, black smoke rising from its front. Screams and coughing echoed in the air. People were helping each other, pulling others from the windows, dragging them away from the wreckage. Mintra lay there for a few seconds, staring at the sky. It was still a bright, clear blue, as if nothing had happened. She could feel the warmth of sunlight on her face, the same sunlight that had seemed so peaceful only moments ago. Her heart trembled as she realized how fragile happiness could be. Then she heard the boy's voice. He was calling for his mother. Mintra struggled to her knees and looked around. The mother was still inside. The flames were spreading again, fast and wild. Ignoring her pain, Mintra ran back toward the wreck. "Stay here," the man shouted, but she did not stop. The heat was unbearable now, waves of fire roaring through the carriage. She climbed inside again, the smoke stinging her eyes until she could barely see. "Ma'am," she shouted, her voice breaking. The woman lay near the aisle, weak but conscious. Mintra grabbed her arm, pulling her up. Together, they stumbled toward the opening. The structure creaked as metal began to warp. For a brief moment, Mintra thought they might not make it. Then, with one last push, she helped the woman through the window, collapsing beside her. The boy ran to his mother, wrapping his arms around her tightly. Mintra sat there, coughing hard, her lungs burning. The fire behind them roared louder, but they were safe. Paramedics and villagers had started to arrive, rushing to help the wounded. The sound of sirens began to echo in the distance. As the boy turned to look at her, his eyes were full of tears, but also gratitude. Mintra smiled faintly, exhausted but relieved. The man in the gray jacket approached and offered her water. "Are you all right?" he asked. She nodded slowly, though her hands were trembling. For a moment, she could not find the words to speak. Her mind was a blur of memories, the laughter, the kindness, the fire, the fear. Everything had changed in an instant. And yet, as she looked around at the people helping one another, strangers risking their lives to save others, she felt something stir within her chest. A quiet realization, gentle but powerful. Happiness was not about safety or comfort. It was about moments of courage, compassion, and connection, even in the face of chaos. Tears filled her eyes, not of sorrow, but of understanding. She looked at the horizon, where the morning sun still shone through the smoke. A new journey had begun, one she never expected, yet one that made her truly feel alive. The train, once a symbol of peace, now stood as a memory of survival. And as the villagers gathered around, comforting one another, Mintra finally felt what true happiness meant. Not the absence of pain, but the strength to rise beyond it. Her journey of happiness had only just begun. The sun began to descend beyond the fields, its golden light bathing the wrecked train in a calm, forgiving glow. The chaos had faded, replaced by the soft murmurs of rescue workers and the gentle cries of those reunited with loved ones. Mintra sat on the grass, her back resting against a tree, her clothes torn and stained with ash. Yet her heart, somehow, felt lighter than it ever had before. The boy and his mother sat beside her. The child clung to his mother's arm, refusing to let go. Every few minutes, he looked up at Mintra with those same innocent eyes, the eyes that had first smiled at her that morning. His gaze carried something deeper now, a wordless gratitude, pure and unspoken. Mintra smiled weakly, reaching out to pat his head. "You are safe now," she whispered. "That is what matters." The man in the gray jacket approached, his hands covered in bandages. "The authorities will take us to the nearest town soon," he said softly. Mintra nodded, staring at the horizon. "Thank you," she murmured. He smiled faintly. "You are the brave one." Yu went back inside. For a moment, they both sat in silence, watching the smoke thin and drift away into the golden sky. Birds began to return, circling above the quiet fields as if life itself was reminding them that everything moves on. The scent of grass and evening dew replaced the heavy smoke. The air, once filled with fear, now carried peace. Mintra took a deep breath. She thought of her reason for taking this journey, to find happiness in a new city, to begin again. But now, she understood something far greater. Happiness was not a destination. It was found in moments of courage, in the warmth of strangers, in the strength that rose from despair. As the rescue buses arrived, she stood up slowly. Her legs trembled, but her steps were steady. She helped the boy and his mother climb aboard first. Before she entered, she turned to look at the train one last time. It stood silent against the fading light, no longer terrifying, only a reminder of how fragile life could be, and how strong the human spirit truly was. She whispered to herself, "This journey was not meant to bring me comfort. It was meant to teach me what it means to live." Her voice blended with the soft hum of the evening wind, carrying her words into the open sky. As the bus rolled away, she leaned her head against the window. The last rays of sunlight painted her face with a golden glow. Her reflection in the glass looked tired, but peaceful, like someone who had seen darkness and chosen to seek the light anyway. Somewhere deep inside her, Mintra smiled. Her journey of happiness had ended on the rails of fear, but begun anew within her heart. And for the first time, she truly understood that happiness is not something you find. It is something you become.